Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana video. Hope you and yours are doing well. I am doing amazing. Was a long, 10-day stretch there with the kids home for, almost 2 weeks straight. I'm sure my fellow parents can relate. It was a blast. Love having them home. At the same time, after spending 2 weeks night and day with them, was ready for them to get back to school, and then we got hit with some snow here, so they were actually not even in school today, and they only went for a half day yesterday. So, been absolute chaos around here. I appreciate you all being patient with me. Got a few things that I am excited to talk about here in terms of the Lorcana market, both some kind of like not really sealed, but the most recent set, Whispers in the Well, is doing really really good. And then as well as I want to talk about the iconic Mickey. So we will start, I suppose, with Whispers in the Well. Hop over here to the screen share. Expected value, I did want to touch on this. Expected value for Whispers in the Well is still sitting at $125. Fabled is still over $100, just for those interested. But yeah, Fabled's still over 100, and then Whispers in the Well at 125. Really, really, really being held up by the legendaries for this particular set. Iconic sitting around, 550 give or take. Market price of 611 for Hades, 560 for Ariel. But it's really the story once again. Not even so much as the enchanteds, but the legendaries. We now have a leader, new leader in the clubhouse. Hades looking for a deal, sitting at 38. Market price of 36. Cinderella at 35 market price. Demona at 34. Goliath at 21. Going to the second page here, had this horseman almost up to 20, 1850 market price, Webby at 1743, and then we've got some epics in here, and then kind of the rest of the legendaries. But overall, this set is the legendaries in the set have just not let up. They have continued to be a really really good value, and that value is really held throughout a lot of the cards and previous sets that coincide with these. I know over the last couple weeks I've sold some like Clarabelles, some Tianas, and a few other legendaries that I can't remember off the top, but just like some older, like set 5 through 8 legendaries that I had extras of from collection buys or whatever. As you guys know, I don't like to just like kind of like fire sale those as soon as I get them. I like to just kind of like wait, let's see what the market plays out. Sell a couple every now and then as it kind of tiers up or tiers down. And just those were selling very, very easily as soon as I listed them. Within a day or two, they were selling at really solid prices, like north of $30 for a lot of the legendaries. And you see that in Whispers in the Well. So whenever we're talking about a set that's giving a 125, 100, I think it's been around like 125, 130, expected value. When you look at the sealed, and you can get a box for, looks like 114 is the cheapest on TCGPlayer. I know a lot of shops in my area have like Cyber Monday deals, or they had Black Friday deals, and I can find these pretty readily available for sub 100 over the last couple of days, even down at 89. If you can get an $89 box and you're expecting a $125, $130 return on it, with the opportunity of that premium chase of hitting an iconic, that is, that's just impressive and really, really good to see. So those of you who are ripping Whispers in the Well, congratulations on that, and hopefully you're able to find some good box prices. Looks like box prices have stabled off. I mean, there were some sales around 90. I'm sure there was a whole bunch of shipping included in that, right? Like probably a $15 shipping. Still holding pretty solid around 115. Almost 2,000 boxes sold in the few weeks that this the set's been out. So I know we're gearing up for Winter Spell, and I know they've released some new products and things like that. But we're in a great spot in terms of the expected value for Whispers in the Well. Now, this is not a set that I would say you definitely want to have like a sealed position in or anything like that yet. On the sealed side, we really we need some more time on a lot of these things, guys, to see how Ravensburger is going to what their long-term strategy is for releasing these sets, right? We've got with the first chapter, we had multiple kind of releases of it. We had one massive reprint, then multiple releases of it. We've now got some different products that have came out. But with Fabled and Whispers in the Well, these sets are going to be in the current rotation for, essentially, I guess, a year and a half from now for both of these sets still. And so, because these were the first two sets of the most recent rotation. So we still got a long time for these to be in the meta. And so we have to see how Ravensburger is going to go about getting more Dumbos, for example, onto the market. When we look at a set like Fabled and look at Dumbo, that card is still, I believe, sitting around like $40, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, $45 is the lowest near mint copy on the market, right? And so if this continues to happen and the box price or the Dumbo continues to stay at a high price and the box price continues to be at a high price as well, which I don't know why it's not showing me like, why is the trove when I'm price out of low? Am I on the second page? That'd be why. A box is at, let's see here, 135, not letting up at all, 140 rather. You know, that in this case, a brand new set that the box price is still at MSRP. It's, you know, almost at 2,000 boxes in the last 3 months. It's at over 2,700 in total. Obviously, people took advantage of the TCGPlayer sale that happened over the weekend. Hopefully, you guys got some good pickups there. But a lot of leads have been selling, and we're back up to MSRP. And this is a very, very interesting one because I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but there is not a single iconic Mickey on TCGPlayer. There have been none listed for over a day. It is I don't know. It's pretty wild to see a card like this. Obviously, look, this card is, you know, in terms of the fundamentals, it's an amazing artwork. It's incredibly rare, 1 in 2,000-ish packs. It's a new rarity, right? Iconic character. Like there's a lot going for it. I mean, like this card in person, I've said it a million times, but like it truly does hit different. Like the Mickey and the Minnie, in terms of like chases out of a booster pack, like those are it. It's crazy how good they look. But there's no Mickeys on the market, not a single iconic Mickey, right? And so I think that obviously that's great for Fabled. That's great for the sealed side of things. But when you think about, you know, what is Ravensburger's strategy going to be to make sure that there's enough Dumbos on the market, and how is that going to then impact the iconic Mickeys? Now, obviously, you know, the fact that it's a 1 in 2,000, you know, pull rate, is it ever going to get that diluted, right? Like, I don't know. But I think this is a very interesting use case and one that they have not dealt with really since the first chapter, where, you know, Fabled has for the most part been around like 120 to 150 for the duration of its life cycle, right? And it's been out for not even 6 months now. But, you know, for the most part, it's been around those price ranges. We have not seen it really dip below 100 at all. You might see some like $100 boxes with like $20 of shipping or something, but we haven't really seen any relief in terms of the box prices. I do think Sealed Fabled from a long-term perspective is going to be a great hold. If you've got a chase in there that's going to be worth thousands of dollars in the future and it's highly sought after, then yes, that's obviously going to correlate to a good sealed box price. But all of this kind of depends on how much they continue to print and how much they bring to the market. And it's so funny, the fact that this set was like 90% reprints, right? And so many of the cards are like worthless, essentially, right? Like so many of them have no value. But the Dumbo and the Iconics, and honestly, a lot of the enchanteds, like the set is a great set when you look at just the alt arts, right? The first inclusion of epics, the enchanted roster, and then as well as the Iconics, you know, the set is an absolute hit once you get to card like 205 and up. Before that, not a lot there other than, you know, the Dumbo, maybe the Scar, but a lot of the enchanteds are holding their value very well. Another one that has continued to amaze me, Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard. This card is not used in the game whatsoever. It is simply an awesome card of an awesome IP, and we are sitting at $235 after the sale this weekend. So, you know, it's continued to deliver, and so I'm very interested to see how Ravensburger addresses this situation here of 12 listings of boxes, a total of 65 on the market. That's it, 65 boxes. I mean, look, there is plenty of time here. Do not FOMO in. They are most likely going to reprint this set, but it's not going to be long before this box is up to 175, 200-ish. You know, if a couple boxes sell every day, there's only 65 on the market. You know, you do the math. It doesn't take a long time to to get there. Now, if you haven't been around for a while, typically after these massive TCG player sales, which I didn't get to do a video on this because we were out of town for Thanksgiving, but TCG Player, if you're not familiar, obviously a very popular site that's used here in the United States to buy and sell trading cards. They offered a 10% store credit on any purchase from, I think it was like last Friday to late last night. So a lot of, anytime they do those sales, people are getting 10% back. That's a significant amount, especially if it's stuff you're already going to buy, if it's cards you need or sealed you want, etc. So it encourages a lot of buying. And so a lot of these prices are kind of high off the back of that. And then as we go through the next 3 to 6 months, some of them are going to come back down, and then they'll kind of stabilize at whatever price that's probably a little bit higher than what they were before the sale. But as it sits right now, unless we're going to get another massive, they said they're kind of doing Fabled in waves. Unless we're getting another massive wave, like that's what it's going to take to get this box price down, get Dumbo's price down, etc. As it sits right now, Fabled is just an absolute smash. And when you look at like some of those products, like the Fabled collector set, or like I think it's called collection set, the binder with the 4 Fabled packs at I think it's $29, and sometimes you can find it a little bit cheaper online. That's starting to look like a pretty good deal, even though it's like not the best price per pack, but the fact that you get the binder in combination with the 4 packs in there, ancillary products like that start to look better and better as the box price gets higher and higher. So I just think it's very interesting that we have 0 iconic Mickeys on the market. There's 11 minis at the moment. Her price has not changed very much at all at $800. I do like the mini card more. Obviously, I understand why the Mickey is more valuable, but I just personally, from an aesthetic standpoint, I think the Mickey card the mini card looks a little bit better. Let's see her sales volume here over the sales. So she did have plenty of sales right around that $800 price point, and she kind of remains there as it sits right now with only, I mean, look, 11 on the 12 on the market total. Not a lot of options, right? When you look at the entire Lorcana ecosystem, there's 12 of them on the market, and this is a set that has had additional waves come out, has had additional releases, and it's just not being impacted. So very, very strong signs across the Lorcana market when you look at these newer sets. Now that hasn't necessarily carried over to sets like sets 1 through 4, which I think that once if we see any sort of strength in those markets, I think that's going to be kind of like the next shoe to drop with Lorcana in terms of it continuing to grow and maybe another hype cycle. Like, are these first chapter enchanteds, for example, now that a lot of these are out of rotation, they're not really being used in the meta that much. Like, no one's really playing with an Elsa. No one's really using a Carefree Surfer enchanted. No one's really, I guess Tinkerbell would be the one exception, but I don't even think she's getting played that much. So a lot of these are kind of out of rotation when you talk about, or not even out of, a lot of them are out of rotation, but a lot of them, the ones that got reprinted, just aren't being used either. When it comes to the enchanteds from the first chapter, let's filter this down to cards here really quick. Like Tinkerbell is going to be slightly inflated, possibly, when it comes to utility, Carefree Surfer, Stitch, and Elsa. These are the 3 that are currently active in the meta because they were reprinted. Now, these do include Japanese, so like there's not really a $415, English Elsa. The cheapest Elsa on the market is $730. Carefree Surfer, Stitch. Let's see, is there Japanese on this one? Nope, that's English, so you're at almost 200 there. And then Tinkerbell, you're at 175 roughly. But I've been thinking about like different ways to look at the market and judge strength of the market as we move forward, and just different content ideas, which I'm completely open for. If there's something that you guys would like to see that you feel like it's not being talked about or not being covered, or you would like to hear my thoughts on, please leave a comment on this video, as I'm really I would like to get some sort of, because like I kind of just like, whenever I feel like talking about Lorcana, I just kind of record. I wouldn't mind having like a set, like more of a set schedule, or like, like on Monday we talk about this, Tuesday we talk about this, etc. I'm very interested in a couple things here. based on some feedback I've gotten, comparing Lorcana versus other TCGs. So just like what when you compare the first chapter Enchanted in Disney Lorcana versus maybe like the first chapter chases from like One Piece or whatever the One Piece version of the first chapter is, or a recent Pokemon set or whatever. Just doing like side by side comparisons. I think that could be fun. Obviously, it invites a ton of like, Lorcana's not Pokemon, Lorcana's not One Piece, whatever. Like, I know it's just like fun to, do a little side by side view. So something like that. And then as well as I think like once again, like determining the health of the market. It's like if you looked at Lorcana with just like a completely unbiased view and you looked at the most recent set, you would say, okay, box prices around $100 or what was it, 115 for Whispers in the Well, expected value of 135. Thousands and thousands of boxes have already been sold and opened. Its set just came out. So like you would say, okay, if you didn't have like a I don't like Lorcana bias, you would say, okay, the new sets are performing very well. There's obviously a lot of people who are playing the game. There's a demand for the game. The box price is holding very stable. You've got these high tier chase cards. Like it's going very well. So that's good. The new cards are well, right? We just talked about Fabled for a while. Like those two sets are in really, really good spots. And I think the same could be said to a lesser degree, but sets 5 through 8 that are still in rotation. Once again, there are cards in there like Tinkerbell, like Doc, Strength of a Raging Fire, etc. I guess that's Fabled now, that are doing very, very well in their own right, in terms of some of those legendary, super rares, etc. But when you look at sets 1 through 4, like it's very clear that rotation like absolutely just crushed those. Now, some of your enchanteds are still doing fine, but I think that there's like, I think if we just track like, what is the total cost to acquire every first chapter enchanted? And then we kind of like peg that to a price today and then continue to look at maybe like once a month or whenever we feel like it, like, okay, what would it cost me today if we went on TCGPlayer and bought one of every enchanted? What does that cost today? And then what is it 30 days from now? And doing some sort of like, first chapter, small market cap or something like that. And then just kind of tracking that as time goes on. Because I think, to me, and this is something I've been saying for a long time, these individual enchanteds, especially from the first chapter, this base set, this iconic set, the most well-known set in all of Disney Lorcana, we haven't really seen a lot of massive price movement either up or down for these cards for a really, really long time. And so I'm very interested to see what is it, what does this look like a year from now? What does this look like next month or 6 months from now? And just what does this price, what does this movement continue to look like? And so I'm interested in that. So I think we'll probably do something like that. But I really want it to be lacking the utility of the actual trading card game, right? When I talk about our fundamentals and I mentioned that irrelevant aspect, I don't want the values to be massively impacted by their relevance in the game. That's why I tell you guys, look, don't go out and buy your enchanted Dumbo right now. Like that card, I think it was at 270 when we saw it on the page a little bit ago. That card at some point is in this current world is going to be sub 100. Right? Like it's going to be worth a third of what it is now once it's no longer used in the game. Now that might not be till it's rotated out and maybe it's reprinted right or who knows, but at some point in the current atmosphere of what we're seeing for enchanteds, that card is going to lose a lot of its value. And so what I like about the first chapter is like, sure, there's still 3 enchanteds that are technically legal in core constructed, but they're not really being used. And so their prices aren't really inflated that much. Like Carefree Surfer Stitch was already usually the second most costly enchanted in the first chapter behind Elsa. It's just a really, really cool card with some really, really awesome art. And so once again, I think just like putting together some mix of cards that like really measure the collectability and growth of the singles specifically is something that really, really interests me. Obviously, you can do that, with like the sealed, that paints a picture of it. But I think that Lorcana's, adoption as a collectible and I believe that it's growing, that it's continued to grow, and that it's going to continue to grow in the future. I want to see kind of what this looks like, and I think like the first chapter Enchanted set is a decent way of like, kind of determining that. So I think maybe just if you bought one of each enchanted at the current market price, what is that total? And then we'll use that as kind of the first chapter enchanted cap number, and we'll continue to look at that moving forward, or something along those lines. So if you have any ideas on that, thoughts on that, stuff you would like to see around that, I'm very intrigued and motivated to just kind of put something like that together. So we just have something to track from here on out, because you can't really, some of these, new exciting things like Fabled or Whispers in the Well, like, so much of the numbers are being driven by the actual game, right? Because just a lot of people like to play the game, and so I'd like to try and remove that as much as possible to really give us a true, collectible feel, like the Maui Hero at All Enchanted from the first chapter. It was usually like 150 to 200. Sometimes it got up to like 225, 250 in its heyday. But for the majority of the time, let's just say it was around $200 market price, give or take, whenever it was being used in the meta before it was rotated out. Now it's sitting at $100. So it came down. Now it wasn't killed, right? It's not at $5, but it's not as high as it was, right? And then some of these other enchanteds like Hades. Hades is a $73 card right now. It's never really been much more than that, but it hasn't really gone much lower than that either. And so these cards, they don't have ceilings like they used to, but they're also, the floor isn't falling out from them. And so I think it's just interesting to see what does the floor look like as we continue to look at this, and especially at some point whenever they run out of the first chapter, which, look, who knows? Maybe they never do. Maybe we continue to get Costco products and Target binder products and all that. I will say I was not blown away by the binder product in Target. I went and looked at it, and I went with the intention to buy one. Now, I did not realize that the Black Friday deal was gone when I went, and so there was a couple of them left on the thing, and I went to buy one, but it was $49, and it's 2 first chapter packs and 2 Floodborne packs. I'm like, no way. And look, I'm the biggest Lorcana fan. I've got one sealed of everything first chapter related. I'm not I have no desire for that product right now. So, and especially with, there's only 2 packs of the first chapter in there. I just don't think that it's going to have much of an impact on the singles. Anytime where supply comes, there's going to be some sort of impact, right? And that's another reason why I want to put this together, because if Ravensburger is going to continue to print these sets that are out of rotation, right? So their whole deal is we want to get the cards in the players' hands. But now they're, giving us products with first chapter and Rise of the Floodborn. Well, those cards are irrelevant to the game, right? If they are relevant, they've already been reprinted in a new set. They're readily available. So many of these cards have lost all of their value apart from the enchanted. So it's not a player angle. So you're doing it for collectors, but you're already these cards are already pretty readily available. There's been a ton of packs. I don't hate that they've done it to this point. Once again, I after the binder binder product was announced at Target, it's okay, here we go. This is a great stopping point. Let's be done with repurposing first chapter here. But having a small first chapter enchanted cap index or whatever to kind of see how these moves impact the prices, I think would be nice to see. So that is it for today's video. Please give me your thoughts on any sort of insight you would like to hear, video ideas, topics, etc. as we kind of get into 2026 and I begin to kind of put together some sort of schedule of content and kind of maybe some sort of more regimented. I feel like I do a good job in terms of volume, but it's very just what's Mike want to talk about today, more so than okay, on Tuesday we talk about this, Wednesday we talk about this, etc. Or do you like it the way it is, right? Whatever's hot, whatever's fresh, whatever I'm feeling, then we kind of, we go there. So we'll probably talk about some of the new products that were announced with Winterspell tomorrow in terms of the binders and whatnot. Looky here, I just got on Reddit and it says the first post on Reddit is Lorcana dying. I just, the content comes right to me. Very, very interesting. So maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow. Who knows? But yeah, that'll be a good one to end on. We shall talk about this at a later date. That'll be, I love a good is Lorcana dying thread. Who knows? I've put out a few of those lately, so maybe we'll skip this one. But nevertheless, guys, thank you very much for the support. Thank you very much to anyone who subscribes to the channel, anyone who likes the videos, comments, and especially thank you to all of the members who joined the channel and have watched the one members only video. I'll continue to put out a few more of those. Like I mentioned in that video, it's something I want to continue to do. So thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll be back with another video soon. Goodbye.